Here's today's project. Trying to make a very simple candle holder. Got little turned up scroll legs, a heart for a handle. Makes a nice little handle to hold it. A split cup for the candle, which allows you to get a small piece out of there if it's burned all the way down. A bobèche that's about started out at about 2 1/4. You'll see all the measurements here in a little bit, but I wanted to try to make something that was simple and quick that anybody can make. It's all riveted together. Usually I forge weld those right there, but I just riveted today for those that feel a little bit intimidated by forge welding. So there we go. Okay, starting off with a piece. This is 1/8 inch by a 1/2 inch, 10 inches long, and a piece 9 inches long. Now, these lengths are all arbitrary. You can make it however long you want. This disc is 2 1/4, and the piece for the candle cup is 2 3/8 long, about an inch wide, and this section down here is 5/8 inch square with the corners cut off of it. And I'm not going to use this piece, and I've already got my candle cup made. That's what it looks like. It's got a slot in the side so you can dig out a short piece of candle that's in there. It's just rolled up to 3/4 inch inside diameter. And then that piece is bent over, that tab is bent over to attach it to the rest of it. So we'll get into that in a little bit. These discs here, I cut these out with a hole saw. They're just as easily cut out with a chisel, to tell you the truth. But I cut this one out with a hole saw on my drill press. I used the drill that's in the hole saw just to mark the center, and then took the drill out and cut the hole, because I don't want that hole to be the 5/16 of an inch that is the drill on my hole saw. I only want it to be probably 3/16 is the rivet I'll use. So all I did was just mark the center with the drill bit, took the drill bit out, and then cut the hole. First off, we'll work on these legs. I'm going to taper these out on the end. Leave in the hammer marks for a little bit of decoration. And also soften the corners. This being the 9-inch one, will be one leg and a handle. I marked these, just as a side note, I marked these with a whiteout pen. As you can see, that stays on there with heat. You can still read that 10 on there. Takes quite a bit to burn that marker off, that liquid whiteout. get it in pins, you just shake up and write with. Pretty nice way to mark your work. We'll do that to the other end. Put a taper on this end. This end here will be the heart and the handle. I'm going to taper up at about 4 inches worth of the material. I'll probably end up with about a 5-inch taper. It's all said and done. Not coming quite to a point on the end, but just about, because I'm going to cut it later with my hacksaw. That's about good enough with that. Those marks on those tapers on the ends will be the bottom, so that when they roll up, you'll be able to see those marks on there. So I'm going to set up my 4-foot log rule here so that those joints all match up like that. And that makes that an isosceles triangle. And with that isosceles triangle, get my stuff out of the way here. I can put that on that anvil like that, put a mark, and that is the angle that I want these legs to be bent at. Order of operation. It's 10.5 inches long now, so we'll go to 5 1/4. Need a mark in the middle of that. Later on, we'll be drilling it right there. We'll put that right where that mark is. Bend it over. Got a ways to go yet. Bending it the hard way. Got a ways to go yet. And we're there. Flatten it out a little bit. Make sure we're still. Yep, that's pretty daggone close. I think that's what we'll call it. Now, I think I'll go ahead and curve those ends. Put a little scroll on the end of them. So with the hammered edge up, going to bend those over. about that far. And that'll do that. I reckon if you wanted those marks to really stay in there good, you'd use a soft blow hammer for this, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. That looks pretty good right there. Now, just throw that down there anywhere, Bill. This leg is going to be that long. It'll be sticking out that way. And this up here will be the handle. So I'm going to split that down to, I don't want it the candle cup's going to be sitting there, and I'm going to make a fuller right about there. So I'm not going to cut that any farther than about right there. Might have been better if that was, both of those were 10 inches long. We'll get by with what we got. So I just went over to the saw and split that up to that mark there where I had it. Now we'll make a heart shaped object on that end. There's a convenience bend in those. Now I'm going to taper on those just a little bit. For sure I don't want any sharp corners on them. And we'll hammer back into that groove just a little bit. I'm opening up more than I need, but I want to forge that back into that notch just a little bit. Try and hold that out away from the anvil so that I don't make that any smaller. Right there at that transition. Although that one is a little bit thicker, so we'll take it down a little bit. There we go. Now we'll try to make that into a heart-shaped object. Let anybody ever tell you that a heart doesn't have strings, because you have to play it like a fiddle to get it to where you think it looks right. At least I do. That don't look bad right there. I think it'll be okay. Now I'm going to fuller that. I probably got my order of operation all screwed up here. That's a 3/4 inch adapter for my hardy hole that's 7/8 because I've made most of my tools to fit a 3/4 inch hardy because that's what my traveling anvil is. Now get back to, you don't need this guillotine tool to do this fuller. You can do it with a pair of tong reins. And I'd have done it that way if I'd have done it first before I forged that heart leg. It's going to be that long. Wouldn't have hurt to do all that marking before I did any forging, but I didn't. Order of operation. About right there. And I'll taper it to that fuller. I'm going to twist that right there where I'm doing that now so that that heart is 90 degrees from its orientation right now. That's enough. Chamfer the edges a little bit. I think I'll go ahead and drill those holes now for the rivets. So let's shut that evil damn gas forge off. And for sure you could punch these holes, but I'm going to drill them. I'm going to drill for a 3/16 inch rivet using a couple of my specialized tools. Nothing to them. Oh, somebody cranked that down the vise. This is just a V-block that I welded on that angle iron with these two legs so it won't fall down through the anvil. And if you put something round in there or square as far as that goes, it holds it very well. Then I've just got a piece of 1-inch rod that I turned down to 3/4. I could have done the same with 3/4 except I didn't have any 3/4 and not bothered to turn it down. Now, that is what I size my candle cups with, is that 3/4 right there. So I can put that on there and get somewhere near the center and center punch that. I went ahead and drilled the hole in that bobèche. I should have waited probably until after I formed it, but no more forging than it's going to take to get that where it needs to be, and it should be okay. grab that as deep as I can like that. And try to bend that. Uniformly. About right there. It looks to be about the same. Looking at it from the top. That looks about to be the same too. Just comparing them. Now I'll put a twist for that handle. There's that. Now it's at a 90-degree angle. Now it needs to be bent up just a little bit right out on the end. I'm just guessing about right there. We'll see when we get it all back together, or get it all together, not back together. Hammer here. You want, yeah, it is. A small hammer to set rivets with. Small rivets anyway. I could have got more material there for the head than I did, but we'll get by. Want them lined up real good when that rivet finally decides to take hold. I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, with the exception of putting some finish on it, I think we'll call that done. Hammer that. This cup can be adjusted for your candles fairly easily if need be. That heart makes a nice little handle. See what you're seeing here. If you can see what I'm seeing. Yep, you can see it. So there we go. That's, of course I didn't time it, but that did not take very long to make that. Didn't really take any specialized tools to speak of. Like, you could make that fuller there. You can do that with a pair of tongs. Just put the tong rings on it and hammer it together, but you'd have to do it before you made that heart. I think that rivet is going to be just fine holding that. Like I said, I like to forge weld these legs together right there. But somebody feels a little bit intimidated by forge welding. There's another way to do it, and I think we'll call it a project. I'll clean that up a little bit, put some finish on it, and we'll call it done.